I'm going to call the meeting to order. All right, it is 7 o'clock. I'm going to call this meeting to order. If you'd please bow your heads and join me in an invocation, and then we'll do the pledges. Dear God, we pray that you will bless and guide us through this meeting. Help us have productive discussions that will broaden our perspectives. Help us to resolve any disputes gracefully and find principles that we may agree on. Help us generate good plans that are practical, sustainable, and easily implemented. Guide us towards the best way to take action to accomplish our goals. In your name we pray. Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, of Texas, one state, under God, one, indivisible.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 3, citizen comments. For citizen comments, you'll be limited to 3 minutes. I'll call on everyone who has signed up. If your item is related to one of the public hearings tonight, you have the opportunity to wait and speak during the public hearing, or you may speak now. So I'll start with Britta Joe. Okay. Ron LaRue. Okay. Please state your name and your address for the record, and then your 3 minutes will begin. Oh, I'm sorry, can you turn on the microphone? There's... Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sorry.
So it's Ron LaRue, 3401 West FM 550. I live at the end of Pullen Road, right at the very end. It was at one time part of the Hodges family there. And I voted tonight and turned in my vote on the questionnaire that was sent out in the mail for those that are within 200 feet. And I feel like that there's not enough infrastructure there for the high density of homes. It's an issue for traffic. I have people, like when I'm turning into my driveway, that pass me on a hill with a double line going 90 miles an hour because they can't wait for me to get off the freaking highway. And I'm worried about all the extra cars coming and going because we're on a hill right there and you can't see the traffic that's in the dips on either side. And it's a real danger already, and there's no infrastructure, and I have not seen plans to change that. In addition, last summer, we were out of water for a day, and it had to do with, I guess, the agreement with the RCH water supply. So I'm worried about the infrastructure there as well. And then thirdly, you know, with that high of density, we're going to have a lot more crime. You know, assuming that these are families, you know, there might be teenagers or whatever, and there's no police department here. So again, an infrastructure issue. And then just lastly, I'll close and say, this is not what we moved out this direction for. I keep moving further and further out to have a good quality of life, and it's just turning, you know, into high density neighborhoods. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, next would be, is it Kyle Peoples? Again, please state your name and your address, and then I'll start your 3 minutes.
My name is Kyle Peoples, and I live at 1370 Pullen. And my main concern is the drainage and the roads. And all the water, if we have a plant there, all the water is going to go into pond, and we already have Arturo's. They've already graded everything, and it's turning the creek the opposite way, and it's gonna go down pulling, and then we expect Trilogy to come back this way, so the water's gonna meet, and it's gonna bust the road, I guarantee it. And how, we're not holding any of the developers to any of the plans, because Arturo comes in here and they can do whatever they want. They're not having any drainage, they're not having any ponds that are dug out to capacity. They have the ponds there, but they're not dug out to capacity to where the water is actually holding what it's supposed to. So really, all the plans that are being presented to y'all are not what is out there in the real world, and it's gonna come back into all of our roads and everything. We're not ready for the drainage. We have to have a pond to go to and a reservoir to go to, and that's my main concern, is the roads and the drainage.
Thank you very much. David Black? Okay. Bob Steinhagen? Again, sir, please state your name and your address.
Sure. Good evening, Bob Steinhagen, 304 Pheasant Hill Drive. Before I begin, would like to make a point of order that the form that we signed for request to speak states that we have 5 minutes to speak, not 3.
You are correct, sir. I apologize.
Okay, thank you very much. And I do want to speak during the hearing as well. Okay. I just want to, for this point, I would like to make put on the record for the recording and for the official minutes that at the back of the packet is a link that reads, "The Plan Development District and supporting documents are available for review at McLendon-Chisholm City Hall. The PDD ordinance is included here. Double-click the icon. It is a dead icon, as all of you should already know." None of you were able to get that document. The citizens have been kept from that document. It is not disclosed prior to the meeting as required by law. It's my understanding if you're going to put an ordinance through, and I've requested one and I've been refused. Citizens and you deserve time to review that ordinance before having to make a decision on it. And that is, in my opinion, a violation of Texas Open Meetings Act. Thank you very much.
Did you have anyone else sign up for citizen comments?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Then we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the approval of the minutes from the January 17th meeting. Did the commission have a chance to review those, and are there any comments or edits? Okay, then I will take a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That carries. Okay. Next, we will move on to item 5.1, a public hearing on request for approval of a special use permit for a restaurant to be located on a 1.5 acre tract in the King Latham Survey, Rockwall CAD Property ID 101321, generally located south of the intersection of FM 550 and State Highway 205, McLendon-Chisholm, Texas 75032. Mr. Coker, before I open the hearing, could you give us a briefing on the staff report, please?
Yes, ma'am. You may recall on January 17th, the commission considered the site plan, the landscape plan, and the elevations for this application. This is now the actual SUP coming through after your recommendation for the site plan, the landscape plan, and the elevations was for approval. And the city council at their last meeting did in fact approve the site plan, the landscape plan, and the elevations, with the exception of the drive-up or drive-through window. They said that they did not want that. And so you got a recommendation now for approval of an SUP. And let me tell you about the SUP, because our code says that a restaurant in the general business district requires an SUP, whether it's drive-up, drive-through, how that has alcoholic beverage service. And so I had already talked to Mr. Polani and his staff a couple of months ago about alcoholic beverage service. And we went through the requirements of our code and state law about how they had to apply for it. So I knew that the application for the restaurant not only included the drive-through component, but it also included the request for alcoholic beverage service. Our code requires that the maximum gross receipts from a restaurant that serves alcohol not exceed 40%. So there is a way to regulate that. This SUP application is consistent with the approved site plan, the approved landscape plan, and the approved elevations as approved by the city council last month. And so my recommendation is for approval, subject to the condition that they not have to drive up or drive through.
Thank you.
I'll be and I'm glad to answer any questions, Chair. I do not recall the discussion, Commissioner Rhodey, at the council level. All I know was there was a lot of heated discussion about whether you should drive up. There was some concern about having a drive-through restaurant that looked like a Jack in the Box or a Whataburger that would have a lot of congestion. And I explained how this one was going to work, and that is a drive-up window, basically a pickup window, where you had to you had to order your food and pay for your food by telephone or by internet, and then you were assigned a time to pick it up at the window. And we had that discussion, and I think Mr. Polani actually had an opportunity at the council to talk about that. When the council made their final approval of the site plan, they didn't take out the drive-through lane, but they did take out the opportunity to have a pickup window. And I do remember this part of the discussion. They thought that having parking places that were designated for product pickup out in front of the restaurant was the right approach. And so in my staff report, you may see that I made the comment that you can go in through the main door of the facility or through a door of the facility, or they can deliver it out to a parking area that's out in front. But the council was clear, they voted unanimously not to allow it.
Let's hold discussion until we get to that item, okay? I'm going to do the public hearing first, and then we'll do discussion.
But he has a good question. Let me answer
Okay.
that now.
Okay.
The application that you're considering is for a drive-up window and alcoholic beverage service. That's what the applicant's asking for. What I'm recommending to you is approval of all that, with the exception of the drive-up window.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing at 7:14 p.m. Would the applicant like to speak, or anyone else on this item?
Good evening. My name is Mohammed Fulani, 2357 Jupiter Road, Plano, Texas. I am here the project on 205-550 FM. This is a 13,500 square foot shopping retail center with a 2,500 restaurant. We are requesting you to approve our drive lane convenient pickup window, and also 40% city of McLendon-Chisholm allow us to be served for the restaurant for up to 40% of alcohol permit. And here's so many things after pandemic, post-pandemic happened. The restaurant got big loss if they do not have a driveway pickup windows or drive-through windows, either way you can call it. And we do not want here the, how do you say, the chain restaurant. We really want to be a nice restaurant here in this town, which is up to 2,500 square foot with a nice modern patio, and also the pickup lane. The pickup lane give you more convenience for the customers and also the employee for the restaurant owners. We are not the restaurant owner. We just gonna be the build a building for them, and we can find a good restaurant for this town, either Italian or something similar. I'm not sure who's gonna be our tenant, but these days after pandemic, everybody required a nice pickup window to be less contact with each person to person. And as we know, after pandemic, a lot of employees have shortage with the employment shortage, and people, it's not very easy to go out there and deliver the food in a parking lot because of liability issues and other issues maybe come. So there, the window is pretty efficient to be deliver the food and less contact person to person. If something happen again, like a pandemic or something comes up and city and state required you not to go out there or meet persons, and then anybody can come to your window, just give them a drive lane and serve the food out there. And we did the study since last our drive lane got denied. 27%, up to 27% food at a casual restaurant served by the windows. So it's a big increase for the restaurant owners and the taxpayer. You get the tax here. The city collected 27% extra tax because have that lane option. Lot of right now, a lot of restaurants, they do not have this opportunity before pandemic, and they are doing a lot of work with the existing restaurants. If they have enough room to be build drive lane out there. If they don't, I don't know what they're gonna do with it. They're gonna obviously find some other way to do it, put extra windows or extra parking. But right now, this project is not completed yet, and we do have opportunity to build some drive lane or pickup windows, something like that. Any questions?
Will you remain around when we're having discussion? We may have questions for you.
Okay. And I do have one other thing I can add here. My architect, which is David, he is with me, and he's doing over the 20 years in the restaurant business. And also he said, Mr. Polani, if the restaurant today not have this pickup lane, it'd be less chances to get there. So I just give you that update on it. All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item, item 5.1? Okay.
I wasn't intending to speak on
Can
this.
you, hang on, can you just
Yeah.
state your name and address for me?
Britta Joe, 256 Stevens Road, Rockwall, Texas. I actually did attend the meeting where this happened, and I do remember what the city council was distressed about. Trudy was the one that brought it up. They said that at the beginning of the deliberations, there was some concern about where the drive-through lane was going to be located based off of that turn with 550 and having Sonic directly across from it, and the possibility of traffic backing up in that pickup lane that would make it difficult. During that meeting, we had no one who could really answer questions or show diagrams of how that was going to work. There was mentions of certain easements with the way that road works. So it wasn't so much about the problem of having a lane, because we have one in the Sonic across the street, but where that lane would be located based off of people entering and exiting off of either 550 or 205, you would have to check. As a citizen who lives around here, and what he just mentioned, and what I've heard from multiple people who were at that meeting, we were all very confused about why it was such a big deal, especially with the Sonic across the street. So it may make sense to go back in and provide the city council more information on what traffic would look like based on that lane, and if it really will be that much of an issue.
Thank you very much. Okay, is there, yep.
Good evening. Bev Stibbins, 279 Partridge Drive. I too was at that city council meeting, and I agree with what Britta Joe said. My concern is more about a drive-through window. I know you're not going to order there, but they are going to be serving alcohol. Is alcohol being passed out that window? We don't know that. They haven't said. I know that they can go across the street and pick up a 6-pack of beer and put it in their car. But if I hand someone a mixed drink at a drive-through window, that is a little more concerning that they're going to consume it while driving that car. We know we have traffic issues already, so let's not compound them by serving alcohol out a window. The other concern I have, or the other comment I'll make, Mr. Polani stated very clearly, this is not a fast food restaurant. How many non-fast food restaurants do you know that have a drive-up pickup window? They either have a parking space that says to go here, and a staff person brings it out to you, or they have a walk-up window where you could walk up yourself and get the order that you have called in. So it would be my recommendation and my encouragement to not allow the drive-up window. Thank you.
Anyone else on this item? I believe she shut the mic off. Yeah, thank you.
There we go. Good evening. My name is David Zapata. I live on 2225 South First Street in Garland, Texas. I'm the architect of record for this development. My experience with, I've done a lot of restaurants design with Chili's, Applebee's, McAllister's Deli, and these concepts had not had a to-go area, and now they want to convert it more into a pickup window. And right now we're working on getting some of these pickup windows because they're more efficient, and they work better for them instead of having somebody, customers stop, get off, get in, get their order, and come back in. Because a lot of these moms nowadays have their kids and their dogs or something inside. They don't want to leave them inside the car. It's very, very convenient for them to do that. Now, granted, some of these existing restaurants, we can't do that only because of the site restrictions that we have. But right now we're studying, and some of the most profitable restaurants that may want to consider doing a pickup window. Now, what we're proposing, we don't have menu boards or anything out there. All of these orders are going to be either prepaid, and all they have to do is just go in, pick up the order, and drive off. Okay? We could also stipulate in the SUP that no alcohol will be permitted to be issued out into the through the drive-through window. That could be handled. That's no problem. We just want to give the future restaurant an option, a gateway for them to be more profitable, not only for you but for the city. You know, and get the DoorDash, the Postum, the Uber Eats, and Grubhubs, all of them to easily go in and exit out. Okay, so anybody has any questions or?
We can't ask you questions right now, but we'll,
Okay.
if you'd stick around as part of the applicant, we can
Okay.
answer your questions.
Thank
right
you.
now. Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak on this item? Okay. I am going to have you repeat your name and address, even though you already did.
Kyle Peoples, 1370 Pullen. And about the drive-through window, what's going to happen when an order is not ready? What is the car going to do? Have to go into the drive spot anyways and wait and turn around and drive around? Because there's been multiple places that I've been to. You get a text message that says your order is ready, and you go there and your order is not ready, and you're sitting there waiting. So what's going to happen whenever you go through the drive-through? And I know their plan is to probably have a set time that you have to go and pick up your order, but what if everything's not in line? So we're just going to have cars just sitting there driving around or parking in a parking spot regardless. So that's just my concern about it.
Thank you. Anyone else on this one?
Bob Steinhagen, 304 Pheasant Hill Drive. I did an entire show on this this proposed restaurant or strip center. And my biggest concern about it was the historical nature of what I've seen from the Polani Group. I showed the other strip centers that they own. I've shown the other things that they have done. My concern about it was how poorly everything was done. That when you look at what they create, it's not something that is that the city of McLendon-Chisholm should be proud to have. And maybe they've changed that. And I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. Since basically this is a fait accompli, they've already got, heck, the city has paid for their water so that they can have sewer. So in light of that, what concerns me most is they're building a building and they have no idea who the occupant is going to be. That's the problem. You know, I work with a lot of people and several developers. And that's the one thing that they come to the table with is this is the restaurant that we're going to have. Now, if you remember, you may not, but about 2 years ago when all this started, they said this would not be a Chili's. This won't be an Applebee's. And now you hear the architect just talk about Chili's and Applebee's. Really begs the question, what exactly is going in here? It seems as though they're trying to create something that anyone can go into, a dry cleaners can fit into. They're basically going to take whoever will rent the space. They're not looking out, in my opinion, for the citizens of McLendon-Chisholm or our community. Now, your job is a tough one because literally all you can do is whether or not you're going to allow a drive-through window, and I think Mr. Rohde is right. I mean, well, Sonic has one. What's the big deal? I don't know. I don't know what's going to go in there, and all of us have a lot to look forward to because your guess is as good as mine. So either way, however you vote, I don't think you can make a bad decision tonight on this because, as I said, I think a lot of this has already gone down the wayside. Thank you very much.
All right, would anyone else like to speak on item 5.1? Okay. I will close the hearing at 7:28. All right, we will move on to item 5.2. Consider approval of a specific use permit for a restaurant to be located on a 1.5 acre tract in the King Latham Survey, Rockwall CAD Property ID 101321, generally located south of the intersection of FM 550 and State Highway 205, McLendon-Chisholm, Texas 75032. So, do you all have questions or points of discussion? Who wants to go first? I can take a motion first. I'll take a motion first. We can have discussion before the motion, maybe. Yeah, we can have discussion first.
So my concern is the alcohol portion. Is there any way that we can say no alcohol, like somebody had mentioned, served through the drive-through window, if there is a drive-through window? Is that something that we can add to the?
That's a condition you can make.
Another condition, can we make it where it's not, I guess, a major retail restaurant? One that's known, can it be
No.
something that's more a mom and pop store?
No, we're not able to do that
Mhm.
because you have to fit, your recommendation has to fit within the four corners of our zoning ordinance, and it just says a restaurant, doesn't specify neighborhood, national chain, it just says restaurant. And if it's a restaurant, that, you can't really condition that. You can condition serving alcohol through a pickup window. You can say that that's not allowed.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else?
So first, I just want to say I agree with Mr. Peoples that the design has some inherent flaws in it that could create traffic situations. Unintended, not desired, but simply a higher likelihood than not, based on especially once you get cars lined up within curbs and no opportunity to bail out. The second is, I guess I want to ask the applicant, in the application, there was no request for alcohol as part of the application. Is there a reason why that was not included?
Yeah, I'm going to ask you to come up to the mic if you're going to respond, please.
We probably missed that part, SUP, because we had a meeting on December 15th, I believe, including the Brookshire, us and entire landowner surrounding the 30-acre, including Rob Whittles and other partners there. And we already discussed with that, so we thought this is already take care of that part of the issue. But we did not know we need to be included with the SUP application. But the staff meeting already reporting, they said they already have a 40% of alcohol approval on that. But obviously, we have to get approval from you.
So now I'm going to ask a question for City Administrator. We have an ordinance that authorizes on-site use or consumption of alcohol. Standing ordinance that does that.
We do have an ordinance. I don't have a citation for you, but Mr. Coker.
Mr. Tippett, we do have an ordinance that says that alcoholic beverage service in a restaurant may not exceed 40% of gross receipts. It's in our zoning regulations. I just can't give you a specific citation, but after the meeting, we will send it to you.
So I know it's not a popular stance, but I'm going to go back to discussion I had before, which is there's a specific pathway prescribed in state code, section 501.109, that allows for the citizens of a city to make a determination to permit or not permit alcohol consumption. Since this was not part of the application, I'm troubled that we're using a administrative act to circumvent the intent of state law that's embedded in the Constitution. So, given that, I'm not comfortable approving a special use permit for alcohol. I'm all in favor of a special use permit associated with creating a restaurant. But I just think there's procedural steps that should be allowed the citizens to have their voice be heard. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
No, thank you.
Madam Chair, could I add something to the discussion?
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at the specific use permit application. What it specifies is for a restaurant. It doesn't say with a drive-through or drive-up or for alcoholic beverage service. I happen to know that it requires an SUP for a restaurant. And it happens to require an SUP for a restaurant if they want to have a drive-through. And it requires an SUP for alcoholic beverage service. I was at the meeting in December with the Brookshires and Rob Whittle and all the rest of the folks and our city attorney, knowing full well that the intent when they applied for this SUP was to include alcoholic beverage service. I did that. And as you take a look at this application, which is on page 15 of 42 of your packet, you can see that it's not specific about with alcoholic beverage service or with drive-through. Those are all things that I knew were the case, and I've added them in for your consideration. But I do respect the Commissioner's position. We do have alcoholic beverage service in the city right now.
But not on-site consumption.
I believe that they do there
At the winery, which is a
winery.
special provision
Right.
carved out under state law for Texas wines only. So it's a highly restrictive carve-out created by the legislature. It's not an apple and apples comparison. And this is not going to be, I mean, if we approve alcohol consumption, it's all forms, I assume, would be utilized.
Okay, and one other
It's-
thing.
Okay. And only my reaction was, just to comment, is back, is page 19, the application from the applicant themselves was directed at the restaurant and the drive-through, but is void of any, or lacks any specific request associated with alcohol. I'm not, that's a procedure, in my mind, that's a procedural shortfall. I accept Mr. Kwani's explanation. I understand the meeting took place, but I'm resolute in my viewpoint that I want to make sure that we're opening a door that the citizens fully support, and there's a provision under state law to allow that to happen. That's my opposition. Not to the restaurant, the creation of a restaurant, and candidly, I have less concern about I understand that the economic and business dynamics that exist today in the restaurant field, and the need by many patrons to want to be able to pick up meals. The mechanics of that, I'll defer to City Council how they view this, but I do agree with Mr. Peoples that the traffic, it was an issue we raised when we looked at the architectural site plan. They're same concern I had, which was you get someone in line and something's wrong with their order, they're in the wrong sequence, whatever, and suddenly you have 5, 6 cars tied up, which creates a whole different cascading effects. So I want the restaurant, I want economic development within McLendon-Chisholm. I believe a restaurant would be beneficial, certainly, specifically as Mr. Steinhagen said, a restaurant that reflects our community interests. But I'm just on the point of the drive-up lane, I guess I would prefer to see a modified site plan that would accompany these kinds of contingencies. I'm willing to go back to council to ask them to reconsider the actual window. If they had the ability to manage the traffic flow that Councilperson Wassner raised. And then the last point, I do not believe we should be using special use permits to circumvent what clearly is intent of the legislature to allow for a specific pathway for alcohol sales.
Let me add one more thing then. That if the recommendation of the commission is to allow alcohol sales for on-site consumption, that they must comply with all TABC regulations. And I think that should answer a portion of Mr. Kippa's concern.
It would address a certain concern, a specific concern, but not a complete concern.
Can we, is it possible to get a city attorney decision on this? I mean, could we pass it or not pass it based on our recommendation, but put a contingent on a ruling by the attorney, whether or not there needs to be an election regarding alcohol sales?
Yes, you may. One other thing.
And I'm happy to disagree with my colleagues.
No, I understand that. I'm just thinking, you bring up a valid point based on what you're seeing, and the city attorney's not here, and I'm not going to play attorney, so maybe we can.
Yes, you can do that.
Consider
One other
that.
thing, about the bailout, the other question that you have. I go to Whataburger a lot, and Whataburger, if I end up at the window to collect up what I ordered out front, and it's not ready, they ask me to pull out front and park.
Right.
And that's what you have here as an option, is to continue on down the drive-through lane and park out in front, because all the rest of the parking, with the exception of the 15 spaces that are on the backside of the store, are out in front. So I think that would answer that question. If the when you get to the pickup window, if that were what the commission recommended, and it wasn't ready. Because my understanding is you call ahead, you order it, and they're gonna tell you when it's gonna be ready. You go there, you get in, you drive up to the window, if it's not ready, they could easily tell you to go on and park out in front, and they'll come and get it to you when it's ready. But it's a solution that is there already, I believe.
Just looking at the information in front of me, I'm almost to the point where the only special use permit that we can grant is for a restaurant. Because there's two, like in the submittal from February 14th, it says, lane, talking about the lane utilized for customers who will be picking up food orders. Doesn't say anything about drink. I think the SUP is too broad. And I've heard the concerns about alcohol through the window. I've heard concerns about the pickup lane. I personally think that the only SUP we can do is just the restaurant itself. They'll have to come back to us with further either drawings or information or something concerning the alcohol through the window, the drive-through lane itself, in my opinion.
I think our regulations, though, require that we, like alcohol sales require an SUP, the restaurant requires an SUP. I think they are things we have to condition
And the
in
drive-through.
the SUP.
And the drive-through or drive-up.
But our regulations require that as well. So we do have to stipulate all that.
From just looking at this and hearing what everybody's saying, especially Mr. Coker, I think that the SUP that we can approve or disapprove is for the restaurant itself. There's too many other ambiguous things that are unanswered.
Mr. Coker, for clarification, your understanding is when they submitted the SUP originally, they were asking for the alcohol sales in
Yes,
the
sir.
drive-through, correct?
That's correct.
And that can be combined in one SUP, as I think Commissioner Rohde's saying, we could ask them to have separate SUPs. Is that?
Well, you could ask them, but the code implies that they can be handled under one SUP where each of the conditions for approval is stated. For instance, if the recommendation was for approval of a restaurant with a pickup window and for a restaurant that has alcoholic beverage, for on-premise alcoholic beverage consumption, that one SUP ordinance would cover those three contingencies, the restaurant, the drive-up, and the alcohol and beverage sales. So even though it shows us three things in our code, one SUP that covers all of those issues is what the ordinance should look like when it's smoked.
Did you want to address something, sir? You're part of the applicant, right?
Yes.
Okay, yes, you can speak.
Yeah, I'm
Just
Cameron,
speak yeah, go ahead.
Cameron Sloan, 825 Waters Creek, Allen, Texas. Wondered if I could make a motion to table this.
You can
we-
request it, you can't make a
sorry.
motion.
Sorry, I can't make a
That's
motion.
okay.
Can I request that we table this so we can discuss with the city attorney further about alcohol sales and some of the other concerns?
Um, So yeah, I'll ask for any discussion or a motion to that effect, depending on what the commission wants to do. We have to have a motion to table. Don't we? Do I need a motion to table?
You have to have a motion to table, and my recommendation is that you set a date certain, otherwise I've got to advertise it. So,
How long do you think you'll have to resolve this? How long will it take? 30 days, 60 days?
So our next
30
meeting,
days.
Our next regular meeting.
All right. So I'll make a motion that I want to make sure I make the right parliamentary discussion here, because I know there's a specific language around table versus some other procedure. So I want to allow them to have the ability to come back. So I make a motion that the application be reconsidered at the next meeting after the applicant has an opportunity to review these the issues raised tonight with the appropriate members of city staff.
That works.
That work? Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Okay, then I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So item 5.2 is tabled until next month. Okay. We will move on to item 5.3, a public hearing to consider the application of MC Trilogy Texas LLC requesting initial zoning of PD Plan Development District and updating the comprehensive plan and zoning map for 2 tracts of property to be annexed into the city of McLendon-Chisholm, an approximately 441.818 acre tract of land and an approximately 133.325 acre tract of land generally located north of FM 550 and east and west of Pullen Road and situated in the J. Simons Survey Abstract Number 202, the W.W. Ford Survey Abstract 80, and the A. Rodriguez Survey Abstract Number 231 in Rockwall County, Texas, identified by county ID numbers 115324 and 115325, and also being a portion of the property described in a deed to Hodges Ranch Partners Limited as recorded in volume 3828, page 322, as document number 003195110 in the official public records of Rockwall County, Texas. Zoning of the subject property will amend the official zoning map of the city of McLendon-Chisholm. Before I open the hearing, Mr. Coker, can we please get a brief staff summary?
Yes, ma'am. The Trilogy application is for property that is currently located in our extraterritorial jurisdiction. And one of the issues is, why are you considering this when it's not in the city? Because we don't have authority to zone things that are in the extraterritorial jurisdiction. And the truth of the matter is that you're a recommending body. So the legislative body, which is the city council, would be the entity that actually would take action on the request to zone this property. If the council, let's say on March 28th, failed to annex the property, then they could not consider any recommendation from the commission for zoning on property that's in the extraterritorial jurisdiction. A little further into this, we've got a development agreement that was entered into a couple of years ago. And this application is consistent with the agreements that were made through the development agreement. I have reviewed it. The agenda item that's on the city's website, the little icon that you double click, does not work. But in the one I sent to the commission directly, it does work, because I just lit it up and it did. I did make the point here that all of the documents that support this application were and are available at City Hall. And it's been available for the public to review, or the commission or anybody else, since this application was submitted. With that, the recommendation is for approval, subject to any conditions that I put in here, and I don't think there are any, because this complies with the development agreement. And it's also consistent with our desirable comprehensive plan. You may recall that our comp plan that was adopted in September of 2021 actually has some preferred land uses in the ETJ, in areas that we can't control land use. And what our current comprehensive plan says, that if it were in the city, we'd like it to be a master plan development. And that's what this is. This is a master plan development. There is 179 acres of this master plan development that are currently in the city and have been zoned 1 acre. Mm-hmm. And the preliminary plat has been approved. And they're all 1 acre lots or better. The interesting thing about the comprehensive plan is it has no effect, no true effect, in the extraterritorial jurisdiction unless an applicant says that they want to enter into an agreement that we agree to that will cause to effect a zoning solution that they're okay with. And that's what has happened here. We entered into an agreement. It took several months to get, I think maybe even a year to get it executed. And we have the opportunity then for this 575 acres that's currently in the extraterritorial jurisdiction to be considered to come into the city, voluntary annexation, and on that council agenda, the 28th, you'll have the annexation agenda, and then you will have the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation after the annexation has been effected, if it is to be effected. Any other questions?
Any questions for staff before I open the hearing? Okay, I will go ahead and open the hearing on item 5.3. We are not currently planning to limit time, but I do ask that you all respect each other, or respect everyone's time, and keep your thoughts concise. So I will open the hearing at 7:51. Please come up to the podium, state your name and your address and your thoughts on this matter.
Britta Joe, 256 Stevens Road, Rockwall, Texas. I had the opportunity to attend the hearing yesterday of the lawsuit currently involving the city and the developers who own the land in question tonight. In that lawsuit, 11 examples were cited of the city of McLendon-Chisholm violating the Open Meetings Act. Not knowing much about that act, I went and researched it and found the following on the first page. Texas law has long agreed the inherent right of Texans to govern themselves depends on their ability to observe how public officials are conducting the people's business. That is why the Texas Open Meetings Act was enacted, to ensure that Texas government is transparent, open, and accountable to all Texans. At its core, the Texas Open Meetings Act simply requires government entities to keep public business, well, open to the public. Public access to the proceedings and decision-making processes of government is essential to a properly functioning and free state. So with all of that said, I ask you to consider why you as citizens would want to advise your city council to take any action on annexing land that is currently involved in a lawsuit showing evidence that the public's right to transparent and open government was violated. I ask you to pause and consider why you would want to move forward on action that supports a development agreement that was discussed with developers who were brought behind closed doors in executive sessions, thus breaking the law and violating citizens' rights to open government. I am submitting to each of you tonight my recap of the hearings yesterday. In it, you will see the stance of your city attorney and a website link to a video of your city administrator confirming that he was told by your attorney that anyone can go back into executive session if they're invited to help in the decision-making process, thus showing Mr. Holla's own lack of respect for the citizens of McLendon-Chisholm's rights to open government. Tonight, I hope the decision for y'all is simple. Also, table the annexation. We need to get back to the foundations of what Texas is all about, which is government that is transparent, open, and accountable to its citizens. Until we have that cleaned up and resolved, no action should be taken on any further steps related to this agreement with Trilogy. I truly believe, based off the discussions I have seen tonight, that y'all care deeply about the rights of your citizens. And I thank you for your time and efforts towards protecting those. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Bob Steinhagen, 304 Pheasant Hill Drive. I have in my hand the development agreement for the Trilogy development that was agreed upon by the City Council. It is the most dishonest development agreement that you will ever come across, and here's why. It shares a half-truth in what Mr. Coker said, who I respect, and I'm a Whataburger guy too. But I take issue with something that he said, because I believe it's a half-truth. And as Mark Twain once said, a half-truth is worse than a whole lie. The half-truth is that this development agreement if I split hairs, it did not comply with the comprehensive plan, because the comprehensive plan at the time that this was adopted by the city council was 1.5 acres. How do I know that? Because it was brought up in the hearing yesterday that the official change in our comprehensive plan was changed to 1 acre in December after this was signed, because a voice vote, a generalized voice vote as it was taken was not proper. But that's splitting hairs. So let's move past that. Let's just say that the city council did adopt the comprehensive plan for 1 acre. The half-truth here is to say that the city council acted in good faith to adhere to the city's comprehensive plan because the acreage that is inside the city of McLendon-Chisholm is in fact going to be zoned for 1 acre or more. That's a half-truth. But if you read further in the development agreement, it also says that the city will annex the other 575 acres. That's part of the agreement. What you're doing, what we're doing tonight is basically kabuki theater. It's not a real action that this body takes. It's basically parliamentary, because it is a fait accompli. They've already made the decision, the city council, through this development agreement. And if the city council, by the way, if they don't agree to the annexation, guess what? The city will be sued and the city will lose. It's that simple. So that is the half-truth. The whole lie is that 575 acres of small lots are going to become part of our city. And I'm sorry, nothing about that. To say that, well, it's in the ETJ and that complies with our broad comprehensive plan, that does not have integrity to it. Because the development agreement was signed with the understanding that we have to annex. And it also says that this agreement shall control in the event of any conflict between this agreement and the future zoning of the property, which means that the developer has full control over the zoning. They get to decide what happens in the 575 acres. So the city council knowingly accepted this development agreement, knowing that the 575 acres would be small lot homes that is completely outside of what the citizens of McLendon-Chisholm desire. How do I know that? Because as a member of city council, I was the first city councilman to start and create the citizen survey. And then as mayor, I brought the second citizen survey. And then after I'm out of office, the city hired a company to get a sense, as it changed its comprehensive plan, to do citizen surveys again. Do you know what the number one thing for all citizens was? The number one, and it wasn't close. The number one thing that citizens wanted to see was to protect our 1.5 acre minimum for home site standard. But the city council decided, forget it. We don't care, 1 acre. And now we really don't care, because we're going to go with these small lot developments. Here's what I would recommend you do. You can either postpone it, which is reasonable, since, as Mr. Coker did say, that his link worked, and according to one member of the commission that I spoke with this evening, their link did not work. So maybe you can clear that up. But what you're doing tonight is a recommendation to the city council. No matter what you decide, the city council is bound by the agreement, and they're going to very likely annex. And so what I would ask this body to do is be the conscience of the city. Vote no. vote to oppose this and simply say, we don't agree with this. This does not comply with our city comprehensive plan. This is not what the people want. At least send a message if you have to vote tonight. Otherwise, postpone and get more information. I would still love to see the ordinance that you're voting on tonight, as no citizen still has a copy of that ordinance. That would be good for us to see as well. I appreciate your time and your consideration. Thank you.
Anyone else? Go ahead, sir. You can.
Name's David Black at 1419 Sienna Lane. Yeah, it's that development agreement that was made a while ago does seem to make this seem like kabuki theater a little bit. But I'll go through the theater part of it. You know, the comprehensive plan was approved in September 29 of 2021. What's the date on the development agreement? Okay, but clearly it had, that we wanted a rural feel and that we wanted lot size 1.5 initially, and they did change it to 1. The story that was given us that participated was Rockwall has said that you can have septic with only a 1 acre lot because it used to be 1.5. That was the story. So I guess that's why some people probably accepted that. I mean, it's a lot better than what I measured for Trilogy's development, 0.14 acres. 53% of the lots they're going to put down are 0.14 acres. That's like half of the smallest lot in Sonoma Verde, and people thought Sonoma Verde was bad. This is just really out of line. So they're all under half an acre, except there are 9% that are set for 1 acre. Perhaps that's going to be in the city part before the annex, and then there's going to be the annex to give us the other sub-quarter acre stuff. If anyone has ever looked at a Huffines development, yeah, they got pretty green spaces, but boy, if you look at the houses, they are packed in. That's just their process. They expect, you know, you'll have the green space and the amenities to enjoy. But a lot of people, when they come home from a hard day of work in a hyperactive, you know, Dallas metro area, they want to relax with their family, sit out, have barbecue, you know, and it's nice to have something other than, some of those you can almost touch 2 houses like this. It's probably really 10 feet, but it might as well be 6 feet. Some of the gentlemen mentioned about Pullen Road. You're the planning commission, so do you have plans to replace Pullen Road? As you know, it's sort of it's an old road, so it's got its bumps and things. It's asphalt. But there are trees and there's structures right up to the non-shoulder that it has or doesn't have. That is a major thoroughfare right into the Trilogy development. Those people are going to want to come to 205. That's going to be a nightmare. Unless something is done and it's replaced. That's it.
Did I have someone else that wanted to speak? Go ahead, sir.
David Larson, 3079 West FM
550 Rockwall. I am directly across this development that's already happened. Probably a quarter mile from Pullen Road. Knew the Hodges. Mr. Hodges was my architect when he was back in the day. I bought 10 acres 40-some years ago. With the police department for 26 years, worked really hard with that land. Finally was able to build a home in 96. And to see what's happening to McLendon-Chisholm now is heartbreaking. Because it used to be 2.5 acres, I believe, way back in the day. Then it went to 1.5 to do Chisholm Crossing. Nice subdivision, though. Nothing wrong with Chisholm Crossing. Nothing wrong with Stone Lee. It's not in McLendon-Chisholm. But if we have to develop something, that's what McLendon-Chisholm should want and deserve and have for the citizens of McLendon-Chisholm. And all of a sudden, you're told now it's 1 acre when it was just 1.5 acres. And also, when all this was happening, I never received any letters from McLendon-Chisholm about meetings. Well, I obviously have never been involved in politics at all. Spent 26 years in law enforcement in Dallas, so I know what crime looks like. And crime will happen. It's happening in Forney right now with what they did over there at 460 in Clemens. I'm so tempted to put signs up in out by my gate, basically saying I do not want to be come Forney. Basically, is what we're looking at by doing this under the table type deal. But I have been to all these meetings. The mayor is a Marine. One of the other members is a Marine. My son spent 22 years in the Marine Corps. He almost came tonight. And I said, why don't you come next time, son, because it's raining tonight. He works over there in Rockwall at Keller Williams. I have been appalled to watch how some of the members up there reacted to the citizens in McLendon-Chisholm. It was the first meeting I came to and I spoke. They left and we got up and one of the gentlemen got up and wanted to just talk about what had just happened. Somebody came rushing out and said, y'all can't do this. What? This is not a place for we the people to come to. We can't be talking. And they called the sheriff's department. They stood back there for over an hour. The sheriff's department finally showed up and they walked around like, you know. Then 2 weeks later, I come back up here again, and after the meeting, I would leave, and now we got a sheriff's car just sitting out in the parking lot. I thought to myself, is McLendon-Chisholm afraid that there's going to be some type of insurrection? And that was my feelings about it. Needless to say, I'm pretty politically involved now as a Republican. And I just do not, I'm going to get off, but I want to thank each and every one of y'all because each and every one of y'all have given your full attention tonight. And I appreciate that so much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on this item? Okay. Then I will close the hearing at 8:10 p.m. We will move on to item 5.4, discussion and action regarding approval of the application of MC Trilogy Texas LLC requesting initial zoning of PD Plan Development District and updating the comprehensive plan and zoning map for 2 tracts of property to be annexed into the city of McLendon-Chisholm. An approximately 441.818 acre tract of land and approximately 133.325 acre tract of land generally located north of FM 550 and east and west of Pullen Road is situated in the J. Simmons Survey abstract number 202 the W.W. Ford Survey, abstract number 80, and the A. Rodriguez Survey, abstract number 231, in Rockwall County, Texas, identified by county ID numbers 115324 and 115325, and also being a portion of the property described in a deed to Hodges Ranch Partners Limited as recorded in volume 3828, page 322, as document number 003-19510 in the official public records of Rockwall County, Texas. Zoning of the subject property will amend the official zoning map of the city of McLendon-Chisholm. Before we start, I do just want to remind the commission that the item that we're considering tonight is about recommending approval or denial of the planned development district. We do not have any recommendation related to the annexation. That is city council. So our discussion needs to remain around the zoning of the planned development district. City council will make the decision on the annexation. So with that, would anyone like to start? Or does anyone have any questions or comments? Any discussion?
I have a question, Mr. Coker, regarding the lot sizes. What I'm having a hard time understanding, and I understand our role is more ministerial, and as long as it's meeting guidelines, we are required to approve. But I'm having a real hard time understanding how they're wanting to annex, meaning they're wanting to become a part of us, but they're not wanting to follow what we're requiring in our comprehensive plan. So that's my struggle. As a citizen, I certainly don't want smaller lots. Personally, just knowing that Mr. Huffines' name is attached to it would make me want to decline it. But I want to understand why they are not wanting to provide, or can we make them? I mean, that's my whole issue is the lot size. I don't want small ones. I'm done.
So this property is all within the extraterritorial jurisdiction. We have no capacity to regulate the lot size. They have had a preliminary plat for all of this property approved because we do have, and you all got to make a recommendation about that preliminary plat for all 575 acres previously. And on platting, we do have only three choices: approval, approval with conditions, or disapproval. But for legislative, for zoning, you're not held to that same standard. Now, the development agreement is pretty specific. If we don't do what the development agreement says, then we have violated the contract. But that's not the issue. I think your question is, why don't they have to comply with 1 acre lots, which is what our current comprehensive plan would say, with the exception of that section that says for master planned communities that can provide sanitary sewer and water supply. And the district that they have established in the city and in the UTJ allows them to establish that. So they don't have to come into the city to do what they're trying to do. They can do it in the extraterritorial jurisdiction now. The only controls that we have until that property's in the city are subdivision regulations, which they've already come through the Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Council with their preliminary plat. You may recall that there were 24 pages of plat documents. You may not remember, but it was rolls this big when it came through here. So your obligation now is to decide whether or not the plan development district that they have submitted is consistent with what the council agreed to a couple of years ago, October 27th, 2021. I think that's when it was actually signed. So what that agreement said is they can have this number. Actually, they've reduced the number of housing units from the original agreement by several hundred units. But we have no control over the size of the lots now. If it's consistent with the preliminary plat, and it's consistent with the development agreement, then you really only have, well, you have the same three choices. You can recommend approval, you can recommend approval with some conditions, or you can recommend denial. Because you're a recommending body, and as long as it's in the ETJ, we haven't taken any action, because you're a recommending body. It's not until the city council, if the city council decides to do this, annexes the property, that our zoning regulations and our comprehensive plan would be fully applicable to this property. Right now, this 575 acres is not really controlled by our comprehensive plan, because the comprehensive plan only really applies to that property that's in the city limits.
Does our development agreement,
Madam Chair, I'm talking to the commission. So, because I don't want to have, the public hearing is over.
Correct.
So I've recommended approval because it's consistent with the development agreement, and it's consistent with the preliminary plat that was recommended for approval by you all and approved by the council. So what they're asking for here is consistent with everything. It has nothing to do with annexation. It has everything to do with future zoning. Under most circumstances, if you bring an acre or 5 acres or 700 acres into the city and you haven't taken this step, then it's automatically zoned agriculture. Automatically, if it's annexed without that. But the state law says that we have the option of zoning it basically concurrently with annexation, if we so desire. And where we are headed is annexation consideration. And if they annex the property, then they will consider your recommendation, whatever it is, for the zoning of that property. So we don't really have any control over the size of those lots.
so couple of follow-up things. On the development agreement, did that specify in that agreement that annexation would or would not happen? It was a for sure thing that was going to be a part of that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And second thing, and I feel like we discussed this previously, obviously another concern, which I think should be everyone's concern in here, is RCH. And how is that going to impact? I felt like that we maybe, didn't we put a requirement in our previous plat approval that they needed to support that they had infrastructure in place?
Yes.
Is there anybody here from the development? So I just have really one question.
Yes, sir. My name is Philip Huffines, and I live at 3900 Miramar, Dallas, Texas.
Thank you for being here. So it's a very simple question. I guess I'm looking for a short answer. But if the city, and I realize this is about the PD or to act on the PD, but my question is a little broader, so give me a little leniency here. If the city does not incorporate Trilogy, will the development move forward and be built?
Well, I don't think I can answer that question just this second. We, of course, have the right to develop the property in the ETJ in any manner we deem, whether it's small lots, big lots, apartments, mobile homes. All of those are legal uses that can be brought into the ETJ and developed.
So in this, I guess I'm going to direct the question to you, but I guess Mr. Coker will probably also provide his viewpoint. But my understanding is the rules that would apply would be the county subdivision regulations would govern the actual construction that would take place in the ETJ, and our authorities would be limited to the ministerial functions associated with platting consistent with what the county subdivision regulations are, and other things like text dot, et cetera. Do I understand that properly?
we have a interlocal agreement with Rockwall County. We have one with Kaufman County as well, but with Rockwall County, where this property is located, that says that the city's subdivision regulations shall be the controlling documents for subdivisions in the extraterritorial jurisdiction. But if they are not going to be not going to be able to provide off-site sanitary sewer, then they're restricted to a minimum lot size of 1.5 acres. If they can provide off-site sanitary sewer prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for a dwelling unit, then they can have any lot size that the county would agree to, as long as they have the ability to provide off-site sanitary and potable water. And there's one other thing that we control. In addition to the subdivision regulations, which are ours, not the county's, with the exception of the 1.5 acre lot size. This property is in our fire district. And so there are certain elements of our fire code that come into the subdivision regulations that we also get to regulate.
Which creates the other issue, which is, so whether or not it's developed, whether or not it's in the city, you still end up with the same drain on city resources.
That's correct.
I just want to know, how are you going to provide water for your development?
Well, we have three different sources. As you know, RCH has verbally agreed to give McLendon-Chisholm their CCN.
Has RCH denied you water?
I'm sorry, did you
Has
say?
RCH denied you water?
Well, our goal is to find a water solution for all of McLendon-Chisholm in this whole
That's
area.
not the question, though.
I'm sorry, I couldn't
Has
hear.
RCH denied you water?
Can they or did they?
Have they denied you water?
They said that they probably couldn't serve any more houses. That's correct.
Okay. So what is your solution?
What's the question?
What is your solution to provide water?
I was trying to tell you that. There's three. There's multiple solutions. So we can drill a well, like at the Heath High School and the golf course. We've already had the water tested. Already had well drillers out there, and so we can provide all the water we need on site through wells, or we can go off site. And we can work with High Point, Blackland, or the city of McLendon-Chisholm. Our goal is to get the city of McLendon-Chisholm in the water business and get RCH out of the water business. All of the infrastructure that we're proposing to construct, which is tens of millions of dollars of water infrastructure, is going to be McLendon-Chisholm's water source. That's how they're going to be in the water and in water business and be a retail provider of water to their citizens.
So who's going to pay for all the infrastructure for the water?
We are. Wait, you're smiling like it's not true?
It's not up to you.
What?
Is there an agreement in place with the city to confirm that?
Well, the district is going to pay for it, and the district's going to own it, but then the city of McLendon-Chisholm is the one who's going to benefit from the water. And after the district gets their bonds paid for, the city of McLendon-Chisholm is going to own the water.
Any other questions? Yes, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. A few years ago, the city was in a similar situation with Sonoma Verde. Same, almost identical considerations, as I understand it, prior to my moving here. But folks I talked to, it's the same levels of emotion, same levels of concern. The one thing I will just observe is Sonoma Verde is a vibrant part of this city, a vibrant community, and a critical part of this community. The road's been a little bumpy, I'll be the first to admit that. But it's being part of the city has helped the city work with the developer over time on key issues, roadways being one of them. So, working with the joint landowners, right, to try to achieve the best possible lot sizes for those who are going on. So I just, this is not a black and white, in my mind, this is not a black and white decision. And I think the challenge I'm having is I'm unhappy. My unhappiness is not with the developer or with this city council. It's with the lack of, or the ambiguity that was intentionally built in by the state legislature and often by county governance that creates these challenges that exist. And the one thing I do believe strongly in is, as Texans, we believe property rights are an integral part of our Constitution. I no more want somebody telling me what I'm going to do with my property than Mr. Huffines. You own the property now, correct?
Yes.
And so it's a negotiation. It's a work in progress to bring the two together. So that's, I'm not in favor of the lot sizes at all. I do disagree with Mr. Coker. It was not, the comprehensive plan did not infer it's a wild, wild west that can have reduced lot sizes. It was very clear about 1 acre, one developable acre, and more importantly, the prior comprehensive plan, which had a flaw, no preservation of floodplain. This comprehensive plan is very clear on that point. So it, I believe we would be best served to allow free of this. Steinhagen, I agree with you, and God help us, the lightning's gonna strike. Joke about the, is he, did he slip out?
No, he's here. He's smiling.
So, I am troubled that the ordinance isn't available to the citizens to review. I understand they could come down here and get it, but we live in an electronic age. That should have been, allow them to have the opportunity to do it. And I mean, I've read it. I don't necessarily have objections, but I'm not, I would feel much better if everybody had an opportunity to fully digest that and understand it relative to the developers agreement, which I've also read. And then as it applies comprehensive plan, obviously the intent there was to extend out the ETJ the best we can to influence, not the outcome I would prefer. But I'm also sanguine about, I will defend, we talk about density often. Heath, and I'm looking at Heath Yacht and the golf and yacht club, has 40-foot homesteads, villas, and what only can be described as high-density homes. It's not in the existing plan in either your development or in Sonoma Verde, where I think your minimums are 50 foot or
Yes,
60.
sir. Yeah, that's correct.
50, and then Sonoma Verde is 60 foot. So again, not for somebody who lives on 2.5 acres, not ideal, but not my preference. But I also recognize we live in a beautiful country that has liberty and freedom, and part of liberty and freedom is a free market economy that provides choices. Anybody go down the supermarket, just consider the coffee aisle. I had the opportunity in the Air Force to go into the coffee aisle of a East German restaurant or supermarket, call it that, in market in East Berlin. Let's just say that the options for coffee were one. You better like it. So that's part of this, and we have a diverse population in the city that wants to have options to live on. Not everybody wants to live on 2.5 acres or 1.5 acres or 10 acres. So I just want to be able to make sure we provide that options within reason, and we don't have zoning authorities, which is the real crux of the matter. I will say, Mr. Huffines, you agreed very quickly to comply with the city zoning requirements inside for the development of the properties within the city. So we just want to publicly acknowledge you did that. There was no pushback at all. So I wish I had a better answer. I don't. I guess I would like to see this postponed to allow, as Mr. Steinhagen talked about, the ability of the public to absorb this document, and then bring it back at the appropriate time to us for recommendation. Is there a timeline we're working against that somehow?
I'm not sure if there's a specific timeline. However, the packet went out, and unbeknownst to staff, that the electronic availability was not functioning. We received 0 calls from anybody in this audience or anybody in the city. Tonight was the first time that I ever heard that it didn't function. Tonight was the
Okay.
We're talking about me, and I said me. Tonight was the first time that I heard of anyone requesting for that. And if they requested it, we'll get it for them. I mean, it's not a secret. I'm just saying. However, your ability to table it, continue it, postpone it, you have that ability. Legally, I'm not aware of a specific timeline other than the council has it scheduled for their next city council meeting.
Mr. Huffines, would you have any objection if we did that? I realize you're on a timetable. I appreciate the capital.
Well, commissioners, we've got a hearing coming up with the city council here very quickly. And I would like to request that the Planning and Zoning Commission, thank you guys very much for taking the time to be on the commission, make a recommendation tonight for either denial or approval and not table it, if that's possible. I'd like to really spend, the next 15 minutes telling you how great the community's going to be, because we are so excited about it. I mean, it is going to be fantastic. But regardless of that, we would like for the commissioners to vote tonight to approve or deny.
Thank you, sir. Okay, you're all out of order. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd like to remind you real quick, of course, as your planning director mentioned, you have this body here, the Planning and Zoning Commission has already approved the plat for all of the properties. And with that comes all the vesting rights, additional vesting rights. And the city council, of course, has already signed and approved the document. So this body itself has already approved the preliminary plats for the entire property, as shown on the concept.
Thank you.
I do have one comment. There is some lawsuits going on, and things are stuck in litigation as well as in mud in your district. So I don't know if are we finished with discussion? Can I make a motion?
No, we're still discussing.
Okay, I'll wait. Well, my point is that there's still aspects stuck in litigation. So for us to be able to approve something right now is not, I don't feel comfortable or right doing that. I'm not in good conscience to approve anything right now when there's stuff stuck in the courts. So after that stuff's gone through, after citizens have been able to see the ordinance, my link was not working. It should be working. I mean, every time I send emails out, I always double check links. They should be working. all the time. There's no excuses not to have stuff working. So I feel that there's just not enough information right now for us to approve it, because there is stuff stuck in courts right now. So we need to wait on to see what happens with that.
Is there any further discussion? I will entertain a motion.
I'm not sure if I'll word this correctly, but I make a motion to table this until we have further information and postpone it.
And what?
Postpone and table this. Postpone it. I'm not sure the timeline would be.
Why don't you make a motion to table it or postpone it until the next regularly scheduled commission meeting, and if the information that needs to be provided hasn't been provided, you can do it.
Okay, thank you. I'll make a motion to postpone it until the next regularly scheduled commission meeting.
Second.
Second.
Is there any further discussion on this? Okay, I'll take a vote on the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. That was the last item on the agenda. That was the last item on the agenda. Our next regularly scheduled meeting is the third Monday in April.
And that is what
Sorry.
day?
So with that, yeah. Tuesday, third
Third.
Tuesday in April. Thank you.
April, what is it?
I don't know.
Oh, I don't know what year we're in.
But with that, we will adjourn at 8:37.